So a few weeks ago, I uploaded a new video in the worst Pokemon series talking about how Articuno is one of the worst legendary Pokemon to ever exist. Since that video, I've gotten a lot of comments about other legendary Pokemon like Phione, saying that I should make a video on and that Phione is the worst legendary Pokemon. The thing with that is, we don't know if Phione is technically classified as a legendary or mythical Pokemon like its counterpart Manaphy. It was never officially stated, however, Manaphy and Phione are both a part of the Sea Guardian duo, which isn't classified as a legendary duo like the Mew and Mewtwo duo. This raises the question of, what exactly is Phione? Is it a legendary Pokemon? Is it a mythical Pokemon? Or what? Whatever Phione is classified as, one thing we do know about Phione is that it is one of the worst Pokemon to ever exist. If you guys are unfamiliar, in this series we take a look at some of the worst Pokemon in the game and discuss if they are completely useless or if they have some sort of viable use. Each Pokemon will be rated on a scale of 1 to 5 based on their offense, defense, versatility, move pool, and overall viability. If a Pokemon doesn't excel in any of these categories, then it is deemed to be one of the worst Pokemon. If one of the Pokemon discussed in this series happens to be one of your favorite Pokemon, I do apologize, but just because a Pokemon is one of your favorites doesn't mean that it's safe from being in one of these videos. If you guys enjoyed this and want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, and let me know in the comments down below what Pokemon you want to see featured in this series in the future. So to give a little backstory of Phione, Phione is a 4th generation Pokemon, best gen by the way, and Phione is only obtainable by breeding a Manaphy with a Ditto. This is a pretty unique situation since Manaphy was the first legendary Pokemon that is ever able to breed like this. However, Phione is not considered a pre-evolution to Manaphy, nor is Manaphy considered an evolution to Phione. Phione was never officially classified as a legendary or mythical Pokemon. However, Phione has never been legal in a VGC event like other mythical Pokemon. There's no possible way to obtain Phione without it having to come from a Manaphy in some way, shape, or form. So take a closer look at Phione here. Phione is a mono water type Pokemon with the ability Hydration, just like its counterpart Manaphy, and similar to Manaphy, Phione has the same base stat number across all stats, although Phione only has 80 across versus Manaphy's 100 across. This is a pretty significant decrease in stats for Manaphy. Base 80 HP and defenses isn't the worst thing in the world, however only 80 in both attacks is pretty low, same with speed. Phione also has a virtually non-existent physical move pool, again, similar to Manaphy, and unlike Manaphy, Phione does not have access to Tail Glow, which is one of the reasons why Manaphy is such a great Pokemon. Hydration is also a very neat ability that can be useful, and there are a few different ways you can use Phione thanks to this ability. Now let's take a look at the positives. So for the first positive, Hydration combines very nicely with the Rain and Rest to create somewhat of a reliable recovery method. Similar to some Manaphy sets that people run, I know I've used this Manaphy set in the NPA in the past. You run Hydration, you have the Rain up, you go for Rest, you heal to full, and then you wake up due to your Hydration ability curing your status. It's a pseudo-reliable recovery method. The reason why I say pseudo-reliable is because you can't go for Rest unless the Rain is up, so you kind of have to eat up 2 move slots, which is a bit of a downfall. Phione also has some nice utility moves like Icy Wind, Rain Dance, Knockoff, U-Turn, and Whirlpool. They're not the best moves. Having Knockoff and U-Turn is pretty nice. U-Turn is great if you want to run a Scarf variant for whatever reason. I am a big fan of running Volt Switch or U-Turn on Choice Scarfer because you never know when it'll come in handy. Whirlpool could be cheeky because it's a fun move. People have been using that a lot more, especially in League, so that could be a fun set to use. Icy Wind is one of my personal favorite attacks because it's an ice move. It's base 55, which isn't the best, but there's a lot of things with ice, and you do get to lower speed by 1, which is a very nice thing to do. And obviously Rain Dance is great because this thing is a water type with hydration. It just functions pretty well in the rain. Phione also has some decent special coverage with moves like Scald, Ice Beam, Grass Knot, Dazzling Gleam, and Signal Beam. It's not the best coverage in the world, but it's certainly not the worst, and it's very, very usable. Like most water types, it gets Ice Beam, which is very, very nice. It also gets Icy Wind, which is another ice type move you can run. It gets Dazzling Gleam, which is very nice as well, because having a fairy move is great. Signal Beam is okay. There could be some situations where you use Signal Beam. I don't really know why you would. Grass Knot is also very nice to counteract other water types, so the coverage is okay. Also for lower tiers, Phione has decent enough bulk to keep up with the rest of the Pokemon in the tier. Base 80 isn't great, but it's really not the worst thing in the world. And the last positive is Phione is a great weather setter for the lower tiers because of that hydration ability. And now on to the negatives, and of course there are more negatives than positives. 80 in both offenses is too low to pull off reliable sweeps. It's not the worst thing in the world, like I said, but you're really not going to do that much damage. In the rain, you might be able to, but outside of the rain, you're really not hitting that hard. Also, with only 80 in speed, you're really not outspeeding a lot, so it's really not the greatest Pokemon from an offensive standpoint. 80 speed, like I said, is okay, especially if running a bulky set, because you guys know I love it when bulky Pokemon have a decent speed stat. But it's just a little too low to be ran offensive. Another negative is it has no access to stat boosting moves like Calm Mind or Tail Glow like Manaphy does, which is another reason why Manaphy is so great. I don't really understand why they didn't give this thing Tail Glow. I always thought Tail Glow was kind of like Manaphy's signature ability, even though like 1 or 2 other Pokemon get it. It's kind of weird how they didn't give it Tail Glow. If it did get Tail Glow, I honestly think it would be a pretty decent Pokemon because you will have an insane special attack stat with the Tail Glow, but without it, it's really not that great. Same thing with Calm Mind too. Even if it just got Calm Mind, this thing would be a lot better. Another negative is there are better options for offensive water types, better options for rain setters, and better options for defensive water types even in the lower tiers. Another negative, this one's kind of a reach a little bit, but all around, Phione is just significantly worse than Manaphy. If you look at other duos in Pokemon like Mew and Mewtwo are both very, very good Pokemon. Manaphy and Phione, not the same. Manaphy is a great Pokemon, but Phione does not even come close to Manaphy. Another negative is there's pretty much no practical reason why anyone would ever draft Phione in a league. If you really want a mono water type is one of the most common types, and there are infinitely better options than Phione. I would honestly rather have a Lumineon over this thing, and Lumineon was featured in last week's episode, which you guys should totally check out if you haven't already. Another negative for Phione, now this one is a little bit of a weird one. Phione cannot have an Eviolite. Now I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, duh, of course it can have an Eviolite because it's not considered a pre-evolution, but there is some confusion with Phione because it does hatch from Manaphy even though it's not a pre-evolution. If it did have access to Eviolite, this thing would actually be a pretty decent wall. However, it does not have access to Eviolite because it is not considered a pre-evolution, which is a very weird situation that Phione is in, of course. And now on to the ratings. In terms of offense, I'm gonna have to give Phione a 1 out of 5. I was kind of tempted to give it a 2, but base 80 just isn't enough to do anything, and its physical move pool is just virtually nothing. You could easily make the argument to give this thing a 2, but if we're arguing between a 1 or a 2 in an offensive rating, then is it really even worth it? For defense, I'll give Manaphy a 2 out of 5 because base 80 and hydration can be a pretty neat combo to use. However, I have to give it a 2 out of 5 because you are kind of reliant on the rain to help with your rest and your rain dance, like I said earlier, to heal up. And that's 2 move slots gone, just so you could have a reliable recovery method. It's not even that reliable because you need the rain up. For versatility, I will give Phione a 2 out of 5 because there is more than one way you can run Phione, to be fair. A rain dance set with 3 attacks really isn't the worst thing you can do. I think it's probably best being run as a more bulkier Pokemon. If this thing got Calm Mind, it would be significantly better. I can't stress that enough. Even a Choice Scarf set can be somewhat usable. 80 speed is a good stat for a Choice Scarf. If you have something else that can set up the rain with Phione in a lower tier and you give it a Choice Scarf, it's really not the worst thing you could use in the tier. There are better things you could use, but it's at least somewhat versatile. For Movepool, I will give Phione a 2 out of 5. Its physical move pool, like I said, is pretty much non-existent. And specially, it is actually okay. Unfortunately, it does not get Energy Ball or Psychic like Manaphy does, which are 2 pretty good coverage moves for Manaphy, but it does still have other decent special attacking options, and like I said earlier, it does have some decent utility stuff in things like Knock Off, U-Turn, and Icy Wind. So for Viability, I will also give Phione a 1 out of 5. Again, you can make the argument that it could deserve a 2 out of 5, but at the same time, there's just so many other things better than this Pokemon. Even Lumineon is better than this thing. In the lowest of low tiers, it gets outclassed by pretty much every other water type. And the bottom line is, if you just want to win battles, you should probably stay away from Phione. And that's Phione. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and let me know what Pokemon you want to see featured in this series in the future. Keep in mind that Pokemon like Pidgey that aren't fully evolved are excluded from this series for obvious reasons, and Pokemon that get Mega Evolutions like Lopunny are also excluded because technically the Mega Evolution is part of the Pokemon. Don't forget to check out the full playlist of this series in the description to see all the other episodes, and if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your day, and bye-bye.